Jim Dolan. He is in Atlantic City, and it is blowing very hard, as you can see there. Jim?
Bill, I wasn't able to hear Lee quite completely. Was he saying these are 60-mile-an-hour winds we're seeing here? Whatever they are really strong. They've been going now for about this rate for about a half hour and definitely picking up. We're also seeing more rain here. Atlantic City today is deserted. We haven't seen more than 3 or 4 people. We haven't seen more than 3 or 4 people out here in this weather at all, and you can see why. These homes, we are about 200 yards maybe from the water. These homes and businesses here are all closed and all boarded up. I'm going to try to turn into the wind a little bit. It's a little hard to walk in this weather. To show you these homes over here, these are the ones that are really vulnerable right now. We've seen parts of the roofs blown off in this weather just in the last hour or so. The wind really having its way with them right now. Glenn, get back behind the building. I don't want you blown away here. Those homes are the ones that are really vulnerable right now. Where we are here, the truck right now is just next to a building, so it's protected. Out here you can see that the wind is just pushing so hard right now. This area, when we pulled up, this area was flooded, but the winds, when they started picking up, started shoving the water back to the sea. So actually, it's no longer flooded. You can actually see the sidewalk. You can see the street now.
Where I was by the fire hydrant. So yeah, it's gotten significantly worse. Coming out to take some pictures of the water and also having pictures of themselves standing in front of the water. A very interesting journey in here this morning as we were coming into Winthrop and we're passing the harbor. The water was relatively calm. The boats in the water were not rocking very much. And then as soon as we took a left onto Winthrop Shore Drive, we could see the water starting to come up over the wall, and the waves are really huge here. I wouldn't try to give it a number at this point, but big waves and very little rain, but it is very sustained winds, and it happened rather suddenly, as I'm mentioning, as we get onto Winthrop Shore Drive, and that's where we started to see a lot of people coming out to see the weather. Just before this report, a woman from Winthrop called me a big baby because I'm wearing a hood. And a lot of kids are out here as well. And right now, I would say that it is safe right now. It's just sustained winds. The wall is protecting the streets. There is no flooding at this point. But it does appear that things are really starting to pick up. And we'll be continuing to report from Winthrop for the foreseeable future. Reporting live from Winthrop, Bob Halloran, News Center 5.
All right. Everyone on shore is braced for Sandy, but it's also making some very dangerous waves out at sea. We told you about the 24-foot waves off the New Jersey coast. Waves off the South Carolina coast are now up to 32 feet. So what does this all mean for passengers on board cruise ships in the storm's path right now? ABC's Dan Harris is back with more on that. Hey, Dan.
Good morning again, sir. This storm is making life very complicated for people who run the cruise industry. They're delaying departures and arrivals as we speak. It is also tricky, of course, for the people on those cruise ships. In fact, we just got off the phone with the captain, a man named Vito Caglione of Carnival Miracle. His ship is right near the storm zone.
I'm going to have to try and take Oh, to shore tomorrow. Uh-oh. Looks like something's coming loose over there. There's a red boat gonna go and interfere. Yeah, I can only imagine what a real hurricane, 60, 70, 80 mile an hour winds must be like, because this is something new to me.
And it's getting pretty bad out here as far as being able to stand up here and take this blasting of sand. This is about as bad as I've taken it, even worse than Irene at this point. And we can see the core, we can see the core of that hurricane coming right at us. Look at that wind gusts. That's over 60 miles an hour. You lower your center of gravity and you lower your chance of getting blown all the way down to Cape May. The thing that's saving us right now is that the tide is gone out. It's getting set to come back in. We've got another high tide about 8 o'clock tonight. But with that said, the 150 feet of beach you typically see is not there. So when the tide starts coming in with this onshore wind, we're doomed. This dune is doomed. All the water is going to come over this. This morning the water got up to about where I was with some overwash of waves. Again, the worst surge expected to be as high as 8 feet. That wouldn't surprise me because of where we're sitting in relation to the landfall of Sandy. Looking around town, it's a ghost town right now. I'm looking at all the roofs, trying to find, see if I see any flapping shingles. I don't see any flapping shingles. These roofs are probably pretty good, well constructed, but if the winds keep ramping up like they're supposed to, and the sustained force, we are going to see some damage down here, at least some minor damage. The power is still on. That's a good thing. At least here at Point Pleasant Beach, the power is still on, and the property here is in still pretty good shape.
Also, refineries along the East Coast shutting down one after another. Former Shell Oil President John Huffman. What does this mean and how widespread will this be, John?
Well, if you start south, Neil, there's no real problem for Virginia all the way up to about Baltimore because they're supplied by Gulf of Mexico pipelines. So there's no problem with distribution other than if the electricity's out, retail gas stations can't pump gas. Down in Florida, gas stations are required to have generators for just this kind of a reason, but that law doesn't exist except in Florida. As you go north in Pennsylvania, New York, Connecticut, etc., the fact that the refineries are shut down is not the problem because there should be about 3 to 4 weeks of inventory on hand. The real problem is the distribution. If the highways are closed, as you just said, you can't distribute. If the retail stations don't have electricity, they can't pump for the retail customer. You're likely to see a spike in price, at least temporarily, until things get back to normal, when I think prices will generally come back to normalcy. But the real issue here is people will be reminded how essential gasoline is to everyday life. And when you can't get it, that's the availability issue. When you can't get it, you panic. When you panic, you'll go anywhere to get a tank of gas. That'll lead to gas lines. That'll lead to a lot of people getting very, very unfriendly with one another because when it's scarce, people are desperate. They'll do strange things. So this is not a good scene, Neil.
All right, it is not indeed. John Hofmeister, thank you very, very much for those.
You're good.